Hi guys, how you going? My name's Jared. Today we're going to be doing some creature comfort upgrades on the Skyline. In Melbourne here, last week we hit -3, which is the coldest morning that I've experienced since I've moved down here. And I want to add some seat warmers to this car so that my balls can be warm when I'm going to work in the morning. What I picked up is this cheap kit off AliExpress. The whole thing cost me $80. So pretty much what it comes with is 4 of these pads, which essentially, as you can see the wires there, they just have a positive and negative plug on there. It's got like a heating element, similar what you would have like on an electric blanket in your bed. So it comes with 4 of them, 2 per seat, one for the bottom and the top. And these are the other 2 there, and like I showed you, they have the plugs. Then in this kit I specifically chose this one, which has these switches here, which kind of resemble factory heated seat, and then it goes to this junction box where there's some wizardry that happens inside of it. And then this is the main harness. This end plugs into there. All of these plugs plug into your pads, and then just to finish it off, all you have to do is connect positive to the battery, which has a fuse, positive to an ignition source. Your choice if you want to add to an illumination source, or what I'm going to do is just add it together with the ignition source, because these have some lighting in them apparently. And then a ground. So it's super simple. It's more simple than installing a radio in your car. I have these aftermarket Recaro copy seats. So factory seats are going to be slightly different. As you can see here, there's these 2 blank buttons, whereas if you did pay extra as an option, you could have heated seats. So I'm planning to put those 2 switches here so it looks original factory. You could, if you wanted as well, use these ones here, but mine are all used up at the moment. Or you could make some holes underneath here if you wanted, or you could even hide it inside your center console there. But I think essentially how it's going to go is I'm going to take these seats out, put the heated pads underneath the bottom and the top, with the wires out the bottom coming into the center console to the switches, and then I'm going to have to run some wires to the battery as well and pick up an ignition source, maybe off the radio or the cigarette lighter, to turn it on. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and remove this seat, and both of the seats actually, because to get that center console out I can't quite get the screws with them at the moment. So we'll get the seats out first. So now we have the seat out, what we need to do is expose or pull back the seat covering. In my case it's super simple because this covering is just actually stretched over the foam like this. So what you'll have is these rings there which hold the fabric down, and what we're going to need to do is cut them so we can actually pull the fabric back. So it looks like there's a line of them here and one more line of them there. So now that's pulled back, we can go ahead and stick our pad onto the foam underneath the seat cover with the wire out the back. So what you're going to do is just feed that one through the back of the seat there, and you've got your fabric pulled back with your pad, and then you just want to go pull the pad in to get it to the back of the seat. So there we go, we got it pulled in, I got it centered. There's no creases or anything, and the cable's all the way through. So if your seat was too long, what you can do is actually put a cut down this way, not that way, because you'll ruin the heating element. But you can go sideways. In my case, I think it's actually just the perfect length. so I can go ahead and remove some of this sticky adhesive on the side and put it in place. So now, as you can see, that is stuck down in place with the wire at the back. Since mine's got the wire through the middle, we'll now need to make some holes just to reattach the seat on there, and the same goes for the front here. So what I've done, I've used cable ties and made a hole through it just to pull it tight for that seam along here. Then I'm going to continue for the ones on the side, which are a bit easier, and also for here. So when you make the hole, you need to make sure you don't put it through one of these wires here, because then the heating element will not work. Just show you closer up here, so you can see the cable tie going through there and the hole which we made in the middle there and looped around in the middle. So then all you need to do is tighten the cable tie up and it will pull the fabric in, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this one, and this one first, because if you pull that one down tight, it'll be difficult to get the other ones in. So that's that pad now installed and all of the trims put back, and you can see there's a few creases just because I've been folding it, but they will eventually drop out in time. So now we need to move on to doing the back of the seat. So I just finished doing the back piece. As you can see here, I've got the heating pad and it fit perfectly just up to the top there, and just finished putting those rings and stretching the fabric back over, and I'll reassemble the seat. But as you can see, I had to take the back off in order to be able to lift this up and get the heating element in, and make sure you have the cable down the bottom. So now both of your seats should be finished like this, with the cables out the back. Now we're going to move into the car. So this is going to depend on your vehicle, but in my case I'm going to remove the center console here and put the two switches in there, which is going to involve removing this bezel and usually some screws at the back here. I previously snookered myself with how I ran those wires for the gauges, and I don't really want to remove it, but as you can see here, there's a few screws under there which we'll need to remove for the switches. So there's a switch part removed from the center console. So those two switches are installed. You can see there is a gap on either side, which I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to fill it. And then I've got those two plugs on the switches coming to the control box here. And now we're going to move on to the wiring part. So with that box, we're going to plug in our loom. And one of the first steps is going to be connecting this positive to a power source. I suggest for how much power these seat warmers are going to use to run it directly to the battery, but in this case this wire is nowhere near long enough to actually reach the battery, so I'm actually going to cut here and extend it. You want to place this fuse as close to the battery as possible, just in case there's a short in the harness. Should not have an issue with the earth. You can see here, you can just use any of these bolts around the transmission tunnel. And then for your power and illumination source, I'm going to just tap into, I've got some wires here for the subwoofer, which I'm going to use. And then here you've got your harness for the seat warmers. One's red, one's yellow. They're not labeled which one's left and right, so we're going to have to just plug them in, trial and error, and then switch them around. And these extra wire we're just going to place up underneath there. So first I'm just going to cut this wire and extend it to the engine bay where the battery is. When you attach your wire, you're going to need to find a spot on the firewall going into the cabin where you can run your wire. Here already you can see this was a wire I previously ran for the subwoofer. This is where the main engine harness enters into the cabin, and what you can do is make yourself a small hole to run that wire to the positive terminal on the battery. While you're running the wire, you want to make sure that you disconnect the negative so nothing is going to be active while you're running it. This was the part of the kit which I've cut off. I left myself a little bit more length here to run into the cabin, but this fuse and this ring terminal are going to stay in the engine bay for servicing it later. You want to make sure you're using wire which is rated to 10 amps or greater, as this has a 10 amp fuse in it. And this is what it looks like. You have your ring terminal on the positive of the battery. You've got your fuse here and running through the grommet into the car. And then you'll just need to pull through your wire so you can see the other end of the wire. And then from here, we're going to extend the wire under the dash, continuing through the tunnel and back to where we cut it on the original harness here. Okay, so we're at the point where I'm going to put the center console back on. But again, we've got the box there plugged in. I just got these two cables for the seats out the back here. That's where I'm going to leave them. And then I've got the accessory and the illumination wire here extended to this red wire here, which I'm going to run to the cigarette lighter. And then here I ran out of red 10 amp wire, so this is the wire which we extended from the battery, which is going under there to power that. And then I've got the earth just on that bolt there, which holds down this retainer for the shifter there. So the last bit of the wiring is just to connect that to an accessory source, which is going to be our cigarette lighter. And for now I can go put this back on and cover everything up. As you can see here, we now have some lights on here, and when you turn it on, this light turns on to tell it's active. But I was just trying to work out which plug is which for later when we put the seats in. So if you have a multimeter, you can test with this. So what you're going to do is you're just going to probe one of the plugs here, because they come in a pair, one's for left, one's for right. And if I wind one of them, you can see the voltage start to change, and you know then that that is the one for that seat. So that is on, that is off, on, off. The yellow one is for the left seat, and I might actually just put a label on there just so I know for later. So I've had the seats on now for 10-15 minutes on the full setting, as you can see there. And I've been sitting in them and they're definitely warm, but they're not super warm. As you can see here, we're at 21 degrees, and the back 24.5 degrees. Just check that one again. About 23, just I guess it depends on the spot. And now driver's side 25, 26 and 25 degrees. And for comparison, just the floor mats in the car at 15 degrees. So you can see they're not super warm. They're not as warm as I thought. They feel warm when you're in the seat. 25 degrees is not cold. Maybe on a cool morning it'll feel better, but at the moment it's like 16, 17 degrees in here, so it might perform better on a cold morning. Alright guys, this is 2 days after the last clip you saw, and I've used them for 2 mornings now, and I can confirm that when you do turn the car on and the voltage does come up to 13.5 to 14.2 for charging the battery, that the seats do get warmer. As you can see with this footage, they do get to that 30 to 35 degrees, which is more than warm enough. And you can start to feel the heat after about 30 seconds, and probably after 2 or 3 minutes they're pretty toasty warm. I would be pretty happy with them, and after probably 10 minutes or more, you probably want to turn it down a little bit because your back starts to get a little bit sweaty. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with the kit and how it performed and how simple it was to install. I would recommend it at this stage. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If not, I'll see you for the next video. Cheers.